All right, well, we'll just get started. So, my name is Nathan Mistaken Chief. I work with Blood Tribe Lands Management from Kainai Nation, or the Blood Reserve in Canada. We just wanted to give you a little different perspective and approach to what we do with our invasive plants.
Yeah, my name is Jarett Panther. I'm also been working with the invasive plant division for the Blood Tribe Land Management and working on the Blood Tribe for the past 10 years. And we've developed this program that's going on the reserve right now. So what is an invasive? A lot of people aren't too familiar what invasives are, or even just noxious weeds. But an invasive plant, any plant that is not native to the area that it inhibits. Originally, these plants were brought into Canada when the Europeans landed on the continent and used as ornaments and are still being used to this day. These plants pose a significant threat to our native grasslands as they outcompete the natural vegetation. This causes a loss of usable pastures for livestock, which means less cattle that can be put onto the pasture. This results in less money for the occupant that's leasing the land.
Invasive plants are tough to eradicate because they produce hundreds, if not thousands, of seeds, and a lot of them have really extensive root systems. Many of the species that were never brought here on purpose. A lot of them were really pretty to look at, so people brought them over as something to plant in their garden. But there's different ways of transmitting these seeds all over the place. It's livestock, people, wind. On our reserve, on the Blood Tribe, it's deer. Deer kind of track a lot of burdock around, hey?
So why we treat noxious weeds? We treat these weeds because they are classified as noxious or prohibitive noxious under the Alberta Weed Act. Under these acts, there are two categories, noxious and prohibitive noxious. This act states that all prohibitive noxious weeds must be eradicated under penalty of fine. This is used as a guideline, but not forced on the occupants on the reserve. These weeds push out the natural grasses, which I previously mentioned, and the vegetation found in our prairie grasslands. These outcompete the natural grass, which causes damage to the whole plant ecosystem.
Yeah, at least in Canada, the way how it works with laws on the reserve, we don't have to follow the federal guidelines. We can kind of do our own thing, or the provincial laws. Because say if I were working for a county in Canada, not on a reserve, and I come across somebody's home that just has, say their pasture is full of spotted knapweed, which we'll talk about later in here. But me as a county worker and a weed guy, I can approach that homeowner, tell them this plant is in your pasture. If you do not do anything to it, then I can come in and treat it. You'll pay for the cost of a treatment plus a fine. So we don't push that on our occupants. Our program is really kind of, well, at least how it started was meant to help people that graze their own pasture, had their own livestock.
Yeah, and that's how they get a lot of their monetary funding for their chemical and stuff like that. But for us, it's all through grants. We apply for grant money. And so the noxious weed program for the Blood Reserve, this is one of the first ones that we just initially started this year because we saw that a lot of ranchers and homeowners were dealing with this invasive plant here. It's very bothersome. It's a nuisance once it gets established. So it's our first program that runs from May to the end of June. It's a priority given to land occupants that have livestock grazing on their pastures. Burdock has a 2-year growth stage. First year is the rosette stage, and the second year is when the stem can be seen and the seeds can be seen as well. So this is the second year growth. It specifically has a taproot system, so it just specific root taps right into the ground. It doesn't spread through root, it spreads through the seeds. It's 3 meters tall. There's some areas where it grows taller than Nathan here. When he gets in there, you can't even see him sometimes. So it makes, mature plants can produce up to 6,000 to 10,000 seeds, and they're viable for 8 years. So even though this plant's eradicated, the seeds must be eradicated within the area as well, because that seed system will stay, well, for 8 years it'll be viable. Chemicals used is a Restore 2, targeted for broadleaf. Spray application is done with a spray unit. Treatment types used is chemical and mechanical. So it just simply means we use a chemical and we can pull it out. So that's kind of two methods that we utilize on the reserve in treating this invasive plant.
Yeah, when it comes to invasive plants, like the jargon for it is integrated pest management plans. And in those plans, you have chemical, which is herbicide, mechanical, which would be pulling or cutting. Yeah. Biological is like how we'll explain it later, but we use goats to graze for our leafy spurge problem. And then cultural would be like introducing plants that are native to that ecosystem, seeds, yeah. Like introducing them back into it.
Yeah.
Our second program we run is for spotted knapweed. I don't know if, at least here in Browning, but this is all over the place. Like driving down here, I seen it along the road, around buildings. A few years ago when it was in full bloom, like you see the purple flower. Like it is really nice to look at, but people from here will notice it. This has the same 2-year growth stage. First year is the rosette stage. Second year is when the flowering bolt will be seen. A lot of the sites we go to treat, we're the ones that choose them, because this plant is, the term is allelopathic. All it means is this plant secretes a chemical into the soil, basically making it so only itself can grow there.
Yeah.
There's a few stories, at least here in the States, I believe it was Colorado, where a personal landowner, his pasture got overrun by spotted knapweed. So then he tried to get the state to come in and do something, but they couldn't. Then it went to the federal, they couldn't do anything with it. And now it just sits there as an abandoned piece of land, overrun by spotted knapweed.
Yeah. So this is our same thing, taproot system. Simply spreads through the seeds. And when it does go into seed and when it goes out, it's just basically like a firework, all into one location. So once you find this one established, you can pretty well stand there and all around pick out where it's all at. Yeah, that's basically how it is.
Yeah, we do chemical, mechanical, and biological treatment.
Yeah.
So biological, there's actually, is it a weevil, hey?
Yeah, knapweed
weevil that will eat
and all our
seeds.
biocontrol agents, especially insects, are all established through the Lethbridge Research Center. So any biocontrol agent that we do have established on the reserve, it's through the Lethbridge Research Center located in Lethbridge, Alberta.
Yeah. This is one of our main problems on the blood reserve. This plant, it spreads through seed and through its roots.
Yeah.
The term for it is rhizomes, how the plant grows. It just means underground stems. So the plant grows up, down, and sideways. Mm-hmm. And then the root systems for these can go up to 10 meters deep.
Yeah. So it's basically when you see the plant, it's just like the tip of the iceberg, that plant, and you have the whole extensive root system underneath.
Yeah, and the way we approach this is we have to go at it with multiple different treatment types, because what we're trying to get is the root system. Like, yeah, we can kill the top growth and all that,
yeah,
but it's the roots we want to get after. But treatment sites on our reserve are on a 5-year program. A lot of the sites have already been established, but we do have blood tribe members, once they're educated on the plant, informing us of new areas. It actually grows on a lot of different types of soils. It's very well adapted to any place. And Mother Nature doesn't like to have empty spaces. So usually the first thing that grows is invasive plants. Yeah. So say there's work done on a road, or they dug a new dugout.
House being built.
Yeah, and they bring in that soil, they till it up. Usually the first thing to grow will be an invasive plant.
Yeah, invasive plants love any type of exposed soil.
Okay.
So it's used with Tordon 22K and Agril. And this Agril is an adjuvant, so we add it into the chemical and it'll break through this waxy layer of this plant, because it does have a waxy layer, And then especially when we treat it in the fall time, and like Nathan mentioned, we're trying to stress the root system. So this agrel, it's a systemic chemical. What it'll do is once it establishes onto the plant, it'll get right into the root system. Because during the fall, what's going on with this plant, it's going into hibernation. So anything and everything that it's getting on top, it's going down to the root system to feed that for the winter. So once we hit that in the late fall, the areas that we're seeing it recede really good. We're having good results with it. Mm-hmm. It's just changing our method and changing our approach, because before this, we're taking a look at some of these sites, and almost 20 years these sites are being treated year after year with chemical, year after year after year. So we didn't want to do that, and so that's why we established these 5-year programs to basically approach it and say, okay, well, we'll establish chemical, mechanical, and biological approaches and treatment plan, but also we'll take it in monitoring this whole system, making sure that it is actually having a successful outcome, instead of just going at it with just one method. So we have all different types of methods, and especially hitting it during the fall was kind of a new thing for us, seeing a lot more better results. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had something. Oh, with this, you don't want to pull this. If you handle it, wear gloves. Because if you do crack the center, it's almost like glue that'll come out of the stem. It'll give you like a chemical burn almost, eh? Yeah. So don't pull this one. Like it can be cut, but if you do cut it, rinse your machine after. Because if you don't, then you take that machine to a new site, you're just spreading the seeds.
And then livestock, they can eat it, but if they do eat it, it'll create sores in their mouths. So then the sores will prevent them from eating any type of other plants or stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
usually
really
a lot of cows they won't even touch it, hey, but we'll explain it a little bit later. I don't want to get too deep into our...
Yeah, we're just introducing all our plants.
Yeah.
So blood reserve general info. So we have approximately 350,000 acres squared. 200,000 is farmed. 125 is natural grassland / pasture. The blood tribe has a population of 12,800 since the 2015, but that's dropping pretty rapid rate. Approximately 549 square miles within the timber limits. So that's just south of the Waterton Lakes National Park in Alberta. There's 3 rivers, the Old Man, the St. Mary's, and the Belly, that border the blood reserve. The traditional Blackfoot territory extends from the Rocky Mountains to the west, the Sandhills to the east, to the north, Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan in the north, and the Yellowstone in the south.
Mm-hmm. And with this 125,000 natural grassland, it's just the 2 of us working on it. Because our program is still just kind of in its infancy.
Yeah, we are the only 2 that are battling this. Other municipalities that surround the blood tribe, so from Carson, even Waterton, it's very small, their land base, but they get a crew of 25 each year. Other municipalities have 30 to 25 people working within a season, but we are lucky to only get 1 student, summer student if possible. Yeah. So we're developing our program, so hopefully it'll extend and branch out, and actually we'll have a full crew, actually working out there.
Yeah, because we've been kind of working to get this to be its own department, and this year is kind of our first year where we're given the reins to our project.
Yeah.
So it's in its infancy, but it's already well established because we have about 4 to 5 years of pilot projects leading up to this. When we started, we took the courses, we got certified, but then when we came back to the reserve, we brought that mentality with us. It's like they teach you herbicide is like the be-all, end-all. If you have a problem, spray it.
Yeah.
Hey, if it's too well established, use chemical.
Yeah.
But yeah, wasn't until after our first real 2 years of treatment in a lot of sites that we were noticing that a lot of our sage was disappearing along with these invasive plants. And that was really, really concerning to us.
Yeah, there's no boundary limit to even bushes or shrubs, so we can go right up to chokecherry, Saskatoon berry bushes, and spray the whole area as long as there's leafy spurge established. But for myself, being from the reserve and understanding how important these plants are and these stuff that we really take that are ours,
Yeah.
basically. And I felt bad. I was like, no, we're gonna actually create boundaries. We're not gonna go up to these areas, and we're not just gonna be spraying
Just
all crazy.
spraying all the time, yeah. This is where we started to kind of take our own knowledge growing up as Blackfoot people and integrating them into our programs.
Yeah, and it's still I'm a kipitapuka, so I was raised by my grandparents, eh? So that's why I take a lot of this stuff seriously and approaching with the native approach, the native way.
Yeah, and then why I'm so passionate about this is I wasn't lucky enough to learn Blackfoot growing up, but I did learn our like smudge. I've been around societies growing up, so I understand the importance of preserving our native plants, our traditional use plants. And then like on our reserve, me and Jarett, we don't have land. There's no real benefit for us. Like we do this as it's a passion thing.
So this comes from the Blood Tribe, was it our
It's mission statement.
Mission statement?
Land stuff.
So it's preserving our natural environment, grassland, and vegetation using a systemic decision-making process such as an invasive plant management program to help control all invasives encroaching on the Blood Tribe. The end goal is to have grassland that will give our traditional plants and grasses the best chance to thrive. The treatment plan last step will be to introduce natural plants / grass seed. Restoration is the term that is used in Western methodology. This for us is a product on our own holistic approach to our program as Nitsitapi.
Yeah, we're finding a lot of the counties and municipalities that work around us are like really grateful to learn how we approach our plant management plans.
Yeah, so what we've done is we don't just go to the area and basically treat. We're looking at how we can create the best environment possible and give our native plants the best fighting chance as well to thrive in these areas. Our holistic approach, we have designed our program with a holistic point of view. Growing up, we were taught everything is connected, from the biggest organism to the smallest, that we influenced our environment, and it was up to us to be positive or negative. This approach has helped encompass all the methods we have learned through education and the help of the partnerships we have made with the neighboring organizations. So with our organization and Blood Tribe Land Management Invasive Plant Program, we partnered up with a lot of the surrounding municipalities, and it's called the Southwest Invasive Managers, so SWIM group. So it's from Waterton, Cardston, MD of Ranchland, the Lethbridge County, all the counties in the southern Alberta region are all focused on one plan, on one objective is controlling these invasive plants.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sorry.
Why we approach things holistically is one of the teachings from our reserve is 7 generations. That your actions right now are going to affect the next 7 generations to come. So not only my kids, but their kids and so on. So that's how we approach our program. Like we know a lot of the benefits we're not going to see, but hopefully my kids and grandkids can go find sage, sweetgrass without having to really search for it, that these places have come back.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
The use of herbicide is effective, but it's also not specific to the plant, meaning it has unintended side effects when it comes to damaging other plants. And that's where we were seeing our sages, our sweetgrasses. There's not only that, we'll bring up a few, but our traditional use plants were just disappearing along with these invasives. So at least on my reserve, it's kind of hard to find traditional sweetgrass spots. A lot of people are stingy. If they have a good site, they will not share it with you. And either that or they'll be picking it wrong, where they'll be ripping out the whole root of the grass, and it won't even grow next year.
Yeah, especially any type of grass that grows through the root system.
Yeah. our traditional plants are slowly being pushed out by invasive plants. Our natural grasses and sages, they will not be here much longer if we don't do anything. It was this thought that led us to use different treatment types, rather than focus on just the one we were taught in our schooling.
So prairie crocus, Gipiapi. Gipiapi, or soon old man, makes a brief appearance in the spring and represents the warmth and beauty of the yellow sun at its heart, and the grace of the purple mountains all around, and a heavy fur robe to keep warm. Prairie turnip, or Indian breadroot, maize. Maize is an important food and medicine to the Nitsitapi. The root of the prairie turnip is rich in fibers, proteins, and carbohydrates, and is beneficial for the body as it maintains brain health, prevents cancer, diabetes, and a good source of energy. It also is connected to the morning star and the sky beings.
A lot of this stuff, the information we got from this was from Notby's Garden on the Blood Tribe. There's a garden guide that William Singer, Leroy Little Bear, and Kanzi Fox put together.
Yeah, and has a whole list of all these different types of traditional use plants and their Blackfoot name right beside it too.
Here's just a photo.
So there's the crocus there.
Yeah, on the
so
left.
Details everything. The yellow sun in the middle there. The Indian breadroot.
Right here on the right.
Yeah.
But these were the types of plants that we were noticing were disappearing along with our invasive plants.
So with Napi's garden there, what we're hoping to establish is actually starting to turn out our own, like growing our own sweetgrass, sages, and all those type of traditional plants within Napi's garden. So then we can share that too with anybody that wants seeds and stuff like that.
Yeah, then not only that, there's like northern rough fescue. There's 3 or 4 types of fescues, needle and thread, just natural grasses that are supposed to be in our ecosystem. So if we can get that established with Notby's Garden, because to go and buy that seed off of, say, a company in Alberta's Tanis Farms, it's very expensive. And they kind of cornered the market so they can dictate what the price is.
Yeah.
But if we can get it to where on our reserve people can openly go to Notby's Garden and get seeds or get sweetgrass they can transplant into their own personal gardens. So that's all we're trying to do, is just make it easier for people to access these plants. Our wake-up call was we're to see these sites with leafy spurge would also have sage growing with it. Knowing we were using herbicide and that this sage will be sprayed, not seeing it the next season was a cause for concern. This led us to changing our approach, because before it was all about preserving grasses for horses and cattle to graze on. Yeah. And then we were overlooking our traditional use plants. So that's where our program kind of switched to preserving these traditional plants and not worrying so much about people's livestock. Okay?
Yeah. And the benefit of us guys developing this program is a lot of these, like what we said, like what I mentioned before, the Southwest invasive managers, they're starting to implement the same program, the same approach. Instead of just treating what's on there, they want to help and create a whole restoration program around their areas and their sites that they're treating. So using goats is one of the tools we utilize. The use of targeted grazing or mob grazing to control invasive plants is not new, but it is again coming back into the spotlight. The utilization of goats to help control the spread of leafy spurge is one of the methods that is more environmentally friendly. Goats target the leafy spurge plant before anything else. This will help us fight to save our natural grassland and prairies. The leafy spurge plant is aggressive and is slowly outcompeting our traditional plants. It's outcompeting.
Yeah, we started our pilot program in 2019. We partnered with Robert Fink. He would bring out 250 boar goats. He included a shepherd. He did all the moving of the goats, setting up the pens.
They have a whole camp right there.
Yeah, we didn't really have to do anything. So there was a shepherd and a dog on site 24/7. We're entering year 4 of our plan. we partnered with Marilyn Neville from the Grassland Restoration Forum
Yeah.
in Alberta. What she's helping us do is establishing a correct monitoring process on the reserve.
Yeah.
So that way our data can be shared with off-reserve entities.
Yeah, a lot of our surrounding municipalities are utilizing the same method. So with this whole monitoring process, it's new. So the methods that they're utilizing is just simply something that they developed on their own. But with this handbook and this guide, it's going to be a whole across method on how to monitor these
So
invasive plants utilizing biocontrol.
yeah, our data and grazing program will be included in this field book. We only have 2 sites going on the reserve right now. One is the heavy runners, and the other is the singers. But our program is starting to pick up steam, and we will be expanding it this season. Like, we're starting to graze closer to the town of Cardston, which borders the south end of our reserve. This is just pictures of our goats on the heavy runner site. But yeah, we used to tease our shepherd saying that we should pay his dog rather than pay him, because he just moves his hands around, whistles. That dog does everything else. Right?
Yeah, so the pictures of one of the days they first came out, hey?
Yeah.
All these goats.
And then one of the reasons we picked heavy runners is he owns his own livestock. Okay. So like in Canada on our reserve, people can lease their land, and not being landowners, we kind of didn't really agree with that.
Yeah.
But we really try to help people that had their own livestock.
Yeah, so this is a picture of the first year we actually started our pilot program, and the goats are being released onto Leroy's. And what was really good was we had 4 eagles come out that day. They're just circling, checking out everything. And they're just kind of waiting to eat our goats. No, just kidding. No, for us, it felt like it was good medicine, hey?
Yeah.
So this is a picture of Leroy's. It's in a floodplain. And you can see when the water does recede, the river is back there, so when it floods right into the area. So we didn't want to apply any type of herbicide, any type of chemical, because the chemical that we have stays dormant into the soil for about 5 years.
Yeah. Well, the term is half-life with some of these herbicides, and
So-
this particular one, it's 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So depending on how the soil drains, that chemical could potentially be there for 8 years.
Yeah. So it looks like a field of canola in some of our sites on the reserve. Sorry about the picture here, you can't really see, but yeah, it's just nice and green now with our goats being established there, 2022. So using insects as an ally, the leafy spurge beetle, biological control agent that we utilize with goats that help limit the future spread of leafy spurge on our traditional sites. Beetles will take a minimum of 5 to 10 years to see any type of results. The goats will eat the seed heads and stalks of this year's growth, and the beetles will burrow and feed on the root system. We were told that these beetles can taxi on the fur of the goats, so they kind of spread out throughout the whole area. Because once we release, they're just released within the one little area, but because these goats will go and they'll eat in this area and then they'll travel to a different site, these beetles will just taxi on and move on with them. Otherwise, before that, me and Nathan had to be out there with big nets trying to get all these beetles.
Trying to spread these
And
beetles
it has to be
around.
done on a hot day, so
Yeah.
it's not fun.
Yeah.
So here's a beetle release along the Old Man River. So this is with 2 of the guys from the Lethbridge Research Center. They're just GPSing where they've dropped the beetles and documenting and data collecting.
Yeah, so each little drop they have, this comes in a little styrofoam cup,
Yeah.
but there's 5,000 beetles in each cup. So we did 2 drops this year, I think. Yeah, so these beetles, once it gets cold, they burrow right into the roots, and then they'll feed on the roots during the winter.
And we had a partnership established with Lethbridge Research Center, but it recently just kind of stopped a couple of years ago. But they've established 2 to 3 nursery sites on the reserve for leafy spurge beetles, and they established 1 site for the knapweed weevils. So that knapweed weevil is established. That nursery site is kind of beside Thunder Chief, if anybody knows where that is on the Blood Tribe.
Yeah, and
So this is a picture of our swim group. This is one of the weed pulls that we do on the Blood Tribe in the timber limits. This is 2022, and that's all the group that turned out. Some of our staff members. And
Yeah, so there's Waterton Parks,
crew, and
MD of Ranchland,
yeah,
Cardston County.
couple guys from Cardston.
Yeah, Kainai.
And anybody is welcome. Any community member is welcome to come out. We do feed on those days. We have door prize. We're really trying to get some more community engagement from our members of the Blood Tribe.
Well, we might be missing a slide right here. Let's list off our partnerships. Jarett listed one, Southwest Invasive Managers. We're also a part of the Kainai Ecosystem Protection Association, or KEPA, Grassland Restoration Forum. We're also involved with the Alberta Invasive Species Council. We've done a few of our videos on leafy spurge. And then recently we've got given an article space with Lethbridge County. So every 3 or 4 months we'll write an article.
Just to update what's going on the Blood Tribe. Yeah, so everybody knows the Chief Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks a little different from down here. I got to admit that. Coming down here, looking at Chief Mountain from the side.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Try to make it nice and short and sweet because we're field guys. We're really not presenters.
Yeah.
All our everything's come from working out on the field and developing this program. Because before us guys even establishing our getting hired onto the Blood Tribe lands, this program was simply just sitting in the Stone Age and really wasn't going anywhere, and we were just utilizing chemical. So we developed a whole invasive plant management program. We've also used applying different methods in collecting the data. So we fly drones over some of these sites to get proper aerial footage to see if it's receding or if it's growing further out than our treatment process, throughout our treatment process. And then we're using GPS systems, so it's a geomatics mapping system that helps us map out these sites onto the reserve there and basically get a general area size of some of these sites. So once we do a whole aerial mapping of the GPS unit, it'll give us an exact amount of acres, hectares, or even just the length of the area.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. We always like talking about what we do.
Yeah. Just kind of bring awareness that.
Yeah, because we find a lot of people don't even know any of this, like what an invasive plant is. But feel free to take down our email. We answer them. You can ask any type of question.
Yeah, and then we're trying to work with this other, it's called Survey 123. So it'll help us develop an app to where anybody on the reserve can download this app, and take a picture of the plant or any type of plant they have, just want to know what it is. It'll take a picture, it'll show you what it is, and then at the same time it'll help us establish where it's at on the reserve.
Yeah, because it'll mark it as a point on our GIS maps.
Yeah. So and at the same time, because everybody uses a smartphone, so
yeah, everybody's got a smartphone.
Developing this app, it's something that it'll be new to the Blood Tribe lands.
Yeah, just trying to find extra people to help us because it's just the two of us.
Yep.
Right.
Any questions? Yeah. Any questions you guys have? Anything you want to answer?
Did you guys bring your goats to Six?
We've actually been approaching that. We want to start some type of, same thing, kind of like the swim group.
Yeah, but with all the Treaty 7.
But yeah, like Bikani, Siksiga.
Yeah, so we can work with everybody.
And then I even have contacts here in the States where if Browning wanted to have goats, I could get that done here too.
Yeah.
I've noticed in the last few years, pre-COVID, during and after COVID, I noticed that there's some noxious weeds growing around my corrals and close to the manure and all that. I know it's very invasive, I know that.
Yeah.
But it came out of nowhere, and I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
Is it something to do with the...
Well, especially around corrals, like invasive plants, they love exposed soil. So any type of exposed soil, invasive plants will establish. And that's what we notice in corrals. It's just crazy. So
yeah, it could be
once you get
anything from your feed to where your horses were grazing in the pasture.
Yeah.
even if he had road work done. Because on our reserve, we're noticing our public works department, any road that they do work on, first thing that comes is spurge.
Yeah.
It's like that in Old Agency, quite a few places on the reserve.
Is there a website or some pamphlets that, you know, show?
Oh, Alberta Invasive Species Council.
Yeah, they have a website there.
Yeah, .com.
Yeah, and then
It'll have a list of everything.
we have a pamphlet, but we're just developing a newer pamphlet, updating our the old one. We'll have a new one for Keepa. So yeah, we're having the Keepa Summit coming up next week on the Blood Tribe. There's any members are free to attend. Hey,
It'll be a three or 4 day.
I think it's 3 days.
Yeah, but there'll be field tours. We'll be presenting on site at
We'll
one
be
of our.
presenting that at Napi's Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be presenting that day. Get to see the whole site and what we're doing.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
listening to us.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. We're always grateful for that.
Yeah, and it's an honor to be invited down here to speak, and especially down here in Browning.
Hmm.
Spread
So-
the awareness.
Yeah. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, we're all. Yeah.